I am thrilled today to be with the beautiful Sunni Dawson, who is sharing all about her chapter in The Awakened Feminine. Todd and I had the distinct pleasure of working with this beautiful team of authors lately, with all inspired by Melanie Vanhawk. And so we have pulled together these beautiful anthologies, and today I am honored to sit with Sunny to talk about her amazing chapter. Welcome, Sunny. I'm so thrilled to have you here, darling.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. It's been such a pleasure to be working with you all these months. Yeah, such an honor. Thank you so much.
So great. So we just want to talk about how all this came about. So maybe share a little bit with us about how you even came to write this chapter, how you connected and how you came to write this chapter in The Awakened Feminine.
Well, how I came to write it, it's interesting. I mean, practically, Melanie invited me to write this chapter. She'd invited me to do a previous anthology as well, and so invited me again. And what attracted me to The Awakened Feminine was that I really wanted to write a story about my mother and that relationship with my mother and how that influenced how I was brought up, and then some of the ongoing patterns that reached into my adulthood and captured me. And so in terms of writing it, it was really about, I was ready to share that story. I hadn't been ready to share this story yet because it's a little bit of a touchy subject. It is about mothers that might not have been perfect or very far from perfect. And often we like to consider, well, there's a lot of us that had wonderful mothers growing up, and that's amazing. Just that mine wasn't quite that one. And so I wanted to write from that perspective, which is a little bit raw. And so, yeah.
So is this the first time you've told this story, Sunny, in this way, like did the deeper dive and then told the story?
Yeah, it is. It is the first time I've told this story. Yeah. So it's yeah, it was very vulnerable to kind of dive in, but I was really ready to do that, ready to, be more raw than I have been in the past. So yes.
And through the process, did you find, like, as you were writing the chapter and kind of working through what you would share? Because I have that similar relationship with my mom too, and I wrote about my mom and in my story as well too, which makes this book so special. The raw and the beautiful elements of this that were just so authentic, so real. The deep dives, it wasn't surface for anyone that wrote their story. It was phenomenal. And so, what did you learn about yourself in this process, coming to terms with your past, what had gone on with your mom, and then the woman that you have become now? So, maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. Yes, I think in terms of the process of writing this, it's about like, uh, I didn't write from the wound because now I've worked through it and I've done so much healing over the years that I'm very comfortable in writing from it. So it's really, I wrote from my relationship to this experience now, and from a healed place, or mostly healed place. I would say I'd like to see healing as an ongoing journey. It's never a final destination, but it's certainly writing from this place feels more like it's easier to do, number one, and and also just easier to really demonstrate and show the patterns. So how this really affected my life, and some of the stories, through my mother, that actually affected how I've grown today. And also really why I currently do the work I do is because of this relationship I had with my mother. There's no question that I do this work now. Yeah.
And so, maybe talk a little bit about your work. So, how does this tie in, or how did that journey, because how pivotal and how, life changing, life shaping it is when we have those experiences when we're younger, and then how they affect us, how we do our own work, our own healing, and then how we explore serving others in that process. Maybe talk a little bit about where this came from or how it's evolved into your journey and what you offer, out in the world with all the retreats and workshops that you're doing and the beautiful service that you provide to so many gorgeous hearts.
Thank you. Yes. So I in terms of, the work I do now is directly related to my childhood. I had a very um interesting childhood. I like to use that euphemism because because it covers a whole manner of things. But, I'm a child of substantive childhood abuse. And I think those of us who do experience that and want to have a different life than, continue the cycle of abuse, we decide to do something different with that. And it's a journey. It's, over 20 years of doing a whole ranges of therapy and, discovering parts of myself. Like one of the stories that I share in the book is in this chapter, that I share a bit of a story about that I honestly thought I was incredibly dumb, like very unintelligent for most of my life. And the reason for that was just this story that was developed in my childhood from birth, because I was born with extra fluid on my brain. And way back then, when I was born, it was a dangerous procedure to get a tube to drain the water. And so because my parents were extremely religious, they felt like, any medical intervention was something that was of the devil, I presume. And so this procedure that's fairly standard now, that, wouldn't be done in a blink of an eye, they decided not to do that. But the problem with that is that my head, if it was left and the fluid kept growing, I would turn into someone with an intellectual disability. And because of this story, even though that obviously didn't happen, but and it's quite remarkable that it didn't for a whole range of reasons, but essentially, even though it didn't happen, there was this story in my family that I was intellectually disabled. And as they used it, like, in those days, they like, even I had Down syndrome, but that actually isn't scientifically or technically correct at all. But that was the kind of idea, that I was mentally retarded. And because of this story, that's how I lived my life. And essentially, I even, like, I know it's quite surprising, but I even went to law school and I thought I was dumb. And I thought the only reason why I got into law school in the first place is because I worked hard, not because I was intelligent in any way whatsoever. And it wasn't even, I even graduated with honors and I still felt I was dumb. And the moment that it changed was, into my healing journey. I'd done many years of therapy at that point, and then I'd done lots of different, healing modalities. And then I was into one healing modality that I was studying alongside of my career as a lawyer, because I was practicing at the time. And there was this moment in this course, and it was just like, oh, I think I'm actually smart. I think I'm actually intelligent.
Oh, isn't it so true that the stories don't even have to be real for them to be so real for us? It's like that Psycho-Cybernetics was one of the first books I ever read by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, and he's a plastic surgeon. And he would do this full reconstructive surgery on people. And then they would look in the mirror and they would say, "Why didn't you change anything about me?" And their family members wouldn't even recognize them. And so, way back in the 70s, he studied this idea, the power of perception, personal perception, and that power of the subconscious mind to reflect onto us. It's incredible that you experienced all that, told yourself that story, and then had this revelation after all you had accomplished. Like, it is unbelievable, the power of the stories we tell ourselves, both for ill and for amazing good, right? So obviously this work, that would be really powerful with a lot of people that you work with, because the stories at different levels of what we're told as children. But how has this influenced how you deal with your retreatants, with those that are attending your workshops, with those you coach? How does that affect how you approach their own self-beliefs and that transformation that can come of changing those thoughts?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I do a lot of one-on-one transformational therapeutic coaching, but I base a lot of my modalities around parts work. And parts work is working with different parts of ourselves that have been damaged, and then healing and integrating those. And we look really deeply at the beliefs and where they were from. So I like to say I help people to consciously work with their unconscious. So we look at finding these beliefs, like I was dumb for most of my life, and and then, but so I help guide people to find these themselves. So we dive deep and we look at these patterns, and then we provide awareness first, and then use a variety of healing modalities to kind of integrate that so that people can heal. And like everything changes when you do this work, like everything changes. And I'm really passionate about it because I know it works. I know it's worked on me. I know it's worked on many, 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 many other people. And really, healing these unconscious patterns is everything. It's absolutely everything. So I do use this work in my retreats and all the other stuff I do, but I really like doing on one-on-one because, that's when we can really dive deep individually and focus in, really strongly to get, where we need to go for the healing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's a different flow that happens, in doing coaching myself. There's a different flow that happens when you're able to really intimately connect with someone and then allow the downloads that come, the inspiration that flows through you to be able to relate those stories. I think it was remarkable reading, as editing the stories and then working, to be able to pull into the publishing world, the published world. It was incredible to read everyone's stories in that they dug deep and you could see the work that they're doing now, both in the awakened feminine and the awakened masculine. You could see that the work people had done that had really transformed into the service that they provide to people in the world, and how extraordinary that is. Because if we didn't have those stories, it would be harder to relate when someone comes to you and says, I was abused as a child. That's where I split off those different parts of myself in order to survive. So maybe talk a little bit about that shifting within yourself, and then with some of your clients or through your retreats, that shifting from surviving to thriving, because there's so many pieces to that. But maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you. So in terms of those shifts from survival, like we often operate in survival mode in a whole different areas of our life. Sometimes we can be operating in survival mode in our relationships, in our work, in, with money, all of that. And when you start to dive deep into any area that you want to focus on, it's super empowering just to discover where it comes from and how to actually heal that. And when you do that, like, then you really automatically get into thriving mode, like complete thriving mode, which is really exciting. And the truth is that I've seen people heal, including myself, like physical stuff as a result of doing this work, like physical health problems as a result of doing this work, as well as getting into successful relationships, as well as, doing different work because it's way more satisfying for them to change careers. And it's not just because of money, but it's because their soul wants something different. And everything shifts from, when we're able to actually help the survival part of ourselves relax, feel safe, and then to create and thrive.
Was there a defining moment for you? Like when you say physically, you've had that experience. There's usually a few defining moments over the course of our lives. But can you think of a defining moment in your life where it really shifted for you? Where you I know that moment where you were all of a sudden you're in that program and you went, I'm not, I am smart. And so the story I've been told is not real. Are there physically defining moments for you where that shifted and it was kind of evolving at levels as you discovered and did the inner work?
Yes, I mean, you're right. Like I've had many, many defining moments, like because the evolution is always happening, which is amazing. And I definitely had a moment where I had a particular health issue, and because of sexual abuse from medical professionals as a child, I have a crazy fear of doctors and hospitals, and which makes sense considering the abuse that I received. And so I always look, I think it's fantastic, when someone combines, all of the things you can use, whether it's medicine, whether it's, therapy, homeopathy, naturopathy, anything that you can do. I think that like people can heal, in combined ways, in multiple ways, and they're all wonderful and they're all great for different people. For my path, it's like I need to do everything else and then go to the medical profession. So, and of course, you know, I really respect the whole process, and I can work with all of the different, you know, preferences that people have. And for me, so I contracted a health issue and then it became unbearable. I saw a medical practitioner. It was extremely traumatic for me. So I didn't continue, and she wanted to do a lot of tests and all sorts of things. And I was like, no, I can't do that. So I found someone who does the work I do in Europe. And so I worked with her, and literally in 4 sessions, all of the health issues cleared up completely. And then a few weeks went by, a little bit of the manifestation of the health things, only a tiny bit. I did one more session, completely cleared, completely gone, and never returned. So,
Wow.
and for me, that was pretty remarkable physical manifestation. Like you can see, you know, people, you know, I've seen confidence in myself grow. I've seen confidence in myself and other people grow through this process, and they're emotional. But to see a physical manifestation completely clear up, I mean, that's also pretty remarkable as well, I think.
Is that what made you want to study? So, what kind of training did you do and what kind of study did you do? Is that what kind of sparked you doing this training and this parts work?
No, that happened before because I've just always been passionate about it. I've just studied so many modalities, both spiritual, emotional, and therapeutic. So like so many. And so essentially my work is a combination of everything that I've ever done. And it's also very intuitive because, you know, I also am a psychic medium. So I just, you know, I take people on these journeys, and I just needed to find someone that I personally worked with that also has that breadth of skills, which was amazing to find. So yes.
Absolutely. Because we can
Yeah,
do most of it ourselves, but we're always evolving to that next level. So to find someone that joins us in that belief system, in that, in that focus, that belief in being able to heal thyself, because you can heal what's happening in your mind and your body and your spirit.
yeah, and I do agree with that, that we can all internally heal anything. And it's also really helpful to have a guide to help us, no matter how advanced we think we are or how much work we've done individually. It's so nice to have someone who can guide us through that process and also see what we can't see, because we don't know what we don't know, right?
Yeah. And I find, the questions, actually, the curiosity and the questions oftentimes unleash that innate wisdom within ourselves, right?
Absolutely.
And to have someone to know, it's oftentimes not telling someone else what to do. At least that's my focus of my coaching work, is unleashing that wild wisdom within ourselves, because we've stopped listening to that voice. And so asking those questions is just so essential, right?
Yes.
And so tell us a bit about where you live, what kind of work you're doing now. Tell us about your retreat. Talk a little bit about how this book is going to just complement all the beautiful things that you offer.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I'd like to show you the cover of the book, which is very exciting. It's the Awakened Feminine. You see how beautifully designed. So thank you, Jennifer. You're you're amazing. So where I live now and where I live today is I live in Playa del Carmen in Mexico. So on the Mexican Caribbean coast. I get to walk every morning, 10-minute walk to the beach, and get to swim and float on the ocean. It's amazing. I don't think I could ever have foreseen that my life would actually look like this. Because I was previously a lawyer working in community legal centers, giving free legal advice to the most disadvantaged people in society. And so, it was hard work. And now to be living this life is pretty incredible. And also, I get to help people, for me now, in more depth and more profound ways, because the law can only solve so much. The law is limited in terms of its ability to really help people. It's like, you win or lose, but it doesn't address the underlying emotional issues that have created the problems in the first place. So now I work as a transformational therapeutic coach. So I get to actually dive in and actually help people heal it, so they're not going to repeat the patterns. So I'm not going to see, like, for example, as a lawyer, I'd see, you know, a woman in a domestic violence situation one year, literally the next year she'd be with a different guy, but almost exactly the same situation and circumstances. And now I get to help people heal those core roots so they're not repeating those patterns. And I mean, that to me is remarkable and such an honor. And I also am a psychic medium. So I do psychic medium sessions. I channel people's guides, angels, source, created the universe, divine, whatever you feel most comfortable with. And that work is also really powerful because a lot of people, they think they trust themselves, but they don't really trust themselves, and they really want to trust themselves, and they want external confirmation. And there's also a lot of amazing wisdom that I wouldn't have even thought of. And, you know, one client, for example, she's now, like, there was an idea that came through in a channeled session. She's now implementing that business idea to extreme success, which is amazing. Again, like something that you wouldn't, you know, you can't actually think of yourself. I'm also an animal communicator, so I telepathically communicate with animals. So I help humans and their furry or feathered scaled companions get along better, and if there's any health issues, to help them navigate all of that. So that's amazing work as well. And I also run retreats, and so I'm just about tomorrow, I'm heading off to Peru, and I'm going to be running a deep transformational retreat. I'm in the heart of the Amazon, which is incredible. That work is so powerful. I'm so excited to be embarking on the journey with these people. Then I'll be doing my own, like my own one-on-one diet. So I'll be journeying in myself and then going to the mountains to write more, because the Awakened Feminine has inspired me to write more. I've been desperate to get back into writing, and I'm so grateful to be a part of this experience, because this has really gone, Sunny, you're supposed to be writing, you know, you love it, you know, you need to get back into it. So that's what I'm going to be doing in the mountains of Peru. So honestly, and it's been such an honor to work with you, Jennifer, and Melanie, and all the amazing women as part of this collective. Like, yeah, such an honor and such great stories. And I just can't wait to get this into people's hands so they can learn and grow. And it's just also about, like, for me, it's just like, you're not alone. Like, you know, for people to read this and know that they're not alone, and that, you know, other people have had other experiences which can help, you know, inspire them or guide them, you know, in whatever way that, you know, that really sinks for them. So, yeah.
Absolutely, honey. It's just so beautiful. I'm really grateful. I'm grateful you're going off to have your next level experience of writing and creating. I can't wait to hear about it when you come back. It's funny, as you're talking, I feel that I've never called myself a channel or medium, but I definitely, I mean, that's been my whole life, is communicating with that. I just call it wild wisdom, but it's that innate divine wild wisdom, and just coming at it from that perspective. But the ideas that come, the writing, it's, as a professional writer and communicator, there I always talk about the fact there's one way to create where it's for the world. Your ego gets involved, and, you know, it's, I ran a healthcare and technology department for an agency, and so it was all very technical. And then there's soulful writing, and that's like, that's my language for it, but it's that channeling those words through and those messages. And your story is so powerful, Sunny, and I know that this is just going to exponentially create more opportunities for people to understand you. So, you know, because when they read that story, they know, I'm sure you share those stories and you share that connection in your retreats and in your coaching, but to be able to have that book where people can read it and open the door to understanding that, and then reach out as they feel called to. So what are the ways in which people can work with you, connect with you? How do they find out more? All that good stuff.
Yes, so I have a website. It's very easy. It's just my name, sunnydawson.com, Sunni, Dawson, like Dawson's Creek. And that's for people who are over 35 or 40. They'll understand how to spell Dawson. Whenever I say Dawson, like Dawson's Creek, to a 20-year-old, they're going, what? So um yeah, so it's just sunnydawson.com. I also have an Instagram account. I'm on most socials as well, but Instagram's the one I kind of regularly touch base in. So it's at Sunny Dawson, very easy to find. And then I have a retreat site and also an animal communication site, but you can find all of those links on my main site. So it's probably just easier to have a look at my sunnydawson.com site.
Amazing. Amazing. Anything else? A little thought, maybe to take a breath and just a deep breath and think, are there any other messages you just want to leave people with, sweetheart?
Mm. Yeah, I think the big part of my work, and also what really inspires me most days is that I think healing really begins when honesty, true honesty starts. And honesty is a journey within ourselves. It's, again, it's not a destination. And when we really are honest with ourselves, then everything changes from there. And so, yeah.
Just a wonderful opportunity to talk to you today, Sunny. I feel deeply grateful that we met. I believe in those serendipitous encounters and connections, and I feel like there might be some more adventure for us ahead. I feel very excited about the work that you do in the world, and I'm just thrilled to have had you here today. So maybe you can hold up that book one more time and show us any last words you want to leave with people, sweetheart.
Yeah, I just really want to thank people for listening and tuning in. And I really hope that you are able to get the book, read the book, and really be inspired by all of the stories of the women in this book, because, you know, they're all pretty amazing. And I know that you'll find yourself within these pages. So enjoy and let us know how, you know, how you go with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tuesday, May 26th, whether you're watching this before or you're watching it just after, as of Tuesday, May 26th, 2026, it's live and available on Amazon. And then please do leave us a review, because I know all these beautiful authors would really appreciate that, because that's how we spread the word on these amazing stories. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sunny. Look
Thank you,
forward to connecting
Jennifer.
soon.